Is it possible to discreate what they were, like with my mother with her breast cancer a couple of years ago, is it possible to discreate what she created or just allow her to have that too?
What do you mean discreate?
Well, like help her to leave that all behind and
Yes, because every illness is about something stuck in someone's craw. Every illness is about some habit of thought that I keep thinking that is holding me in the place of resistance that is not allowing the well-being that would be there otherwise. Oh, let's talk about this. This is good. So someone has an illness which is always as a result of long-time recurring vibration that they are not consciously aware that they have. Now, it's not subconscious because they are having emotion, but they're not making the connection between this negative emotion and this illness that I've created. And that's what we're wanting you all to do. We're wanting you to make the correlation between how you feel and what's manifesting. So now they have the breast cancer. And now think about the huge leap that medicine tries to make to find a cure to it. You've been listening to us all day here talking about how you can't make the leap from agony to ecstasy. What makes the doctors think that they can take you from illness, which is representative of all of that resistance, to wellness? In other words, it's illogical, isn't it? That's why as soon as they get over that, they get something else. And as soon as they get over that, through the crack of least resistance, the illness just keeps squirting out in different ways. They take out their gallbladder, and they take out their appendix, and they take out their prostate, and they take out their... Pretty soon they're just a sort of hollow shell of a being with only a few things left because the resistance keeps squirting out in endless ways, you see. And so medicine is never going to be anything that is stable until they start treating the cause of the illness rather than just trying to eradicate the illness. You got to get over there and start bridging it, you see. Or you got to find a vibration. As you play with this, some of you will notice that because you've been practicing feeling good mostly, you'll go from feeling pretty good to feeling really good really easily. And some of you will go from feeling not very good to feeling a little better, to feeling a little better, to feeling a little better. In other words, you'll notice that it takes longer in some cases on some subjects, and some subjects it's really easy to get there. Even each of you has some things that are the whole range and some things that are just a little range. And so that's why children can rather easily be distracted back into their joy because they don't have all that habit of thought that is keeping them from going there more easily. Yes.
So I can actually help her to feel better if I feel good myself.
Well, you can't help anyone feel better unless you feel good. And when you see someone that you love suffering, often you use that as your excuse not to. And so then you are really not helpful at all. In other words, we think you can really help your father when you see his anger by not trying to get him to not be angry. But instead saying, good job, anger's a better choice than that fear that you were feeling earlier. And when he gets irritable, then you say, good choice. That irritation is a much better choice than that rage I saw the other day.
How do I keep from being angry with his anger?
Well, that's a tricky thing because what happens is if you see someone lying in the street bleeding, you want to help them. But if there's somebody in the street spitting at you, you want to spit back at them. And yet they are as needy as the other, you see. There are so many things that your society has come to condemn. In other words, you're not supposed to be angry. And we say, that's like saying it's not supposed to hurt when you put your hand on the stove. That wasn't supposed to hurt. I'm embarrassed that I'm in such pain. That wasn't supposed to hurt. I should be able to endure that. We say, it hurts. Admit that it hurts. Anger is that same sort of thing. But rather than condemning yourself for the anger, as you say, I'm consciously made the decision to be angry rather than feeling powerless, and you take control of your thought, now you're in the driver's seat, you see. So now let's get back to what you were asking about your mother. So your mother has an illness, and she's undoubtedly frightened about it. And so now the tendency is to treat the illness or even treat her now response to the illness, when what you're really wanting to do is see if you can help her to figure out what's behind that. And it's not so hard to figure out as you think. It's sort of like if you've got a sore on your hand somewhere, as you touch around, you can feel the center of the sore. In other words, you can feel it's less sore, not 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 sore. Ooh, really sore. You can feel around until you feel where it is. And when you feel where it is, instead of jumping off of it next time, feel where it is and then try to find a place that feels just a little better. And when you do it deliberately, you've made progress.
When I do that with her, she gets very angry.
That's because you're trying to make too big of jumps, and it's because she feels like you are condemning her for her emotion. It's a big difference. Feel the difference between someone saying to you, what are you feeling? And you saying, I feel angry, or I feel sad, or I feel afraid, and them saying, oh, don't feel afraid. Or, well, you shouldn't feel that way. And saying, well, those feelings are valid, and there's good information for you there. And can you think of anything that feels slightly better than that? Because if you can find something that feels slightly better than that, you have made progress. Are you getting this? Can you feel this? Oh. To say, I'm angry and I can't do anything about it is a horrible feeling of powerlessness. But to say, I'm angry and I can direct my anger, now that feels more powerful. As Esther found herself in grief that she didn't expect to feel, she said to Jerry, I can't breathe. They were in the motor coach. They were in Portland, and it was a bright blue sky, and their motor coach is all light woods and big windows, and Esther felt claustrophobic. And Jerry knew that it didn't have anything to do with anything that was real. It was all an emotional thing. But Esther said, let's take a walk. And being outside felt better than being inside. There was no logical reason for it. Jerry didn't say, it's all in your head. There's plenty of air in here. You're making this all up. This is illogical. He said, feel better outside. Let's go outside. And then Esther would say, let's go somewhere. Jerry didn't say, well, everywhere we go, you're going to feel the same way. He said, where would you like to go? Esther said, I don't know, let's just go somewhere. So they got in the car, and for a minute it felt a little better, and then the car felt confining. And then Esther would say, it feels confining. And then Jerry would say, well, then let's take a walk. In other words, never mind why you feel this way. Never mind whether it's right or wrong, whether it's rational, whether it's irrational. Never mind any of that. How you feel is how you feel. And feeling that you have control over feeling better, that's everything. Because that's the only thing that ever bothers you. Because you are creators to the core of your being who have the energy that creates worlds. That's your access. You are extensions of this source energy. And when you disallow that to any degree, that's what all of your negative emotion is about. It's all about your degree of disempowerment, no matter what you call it, you see. You call it unworthiness. We call it disempowerment. You call it incapability. We call it disallowance of the energy that is you. Every time. I'm allowing who I am or I'm not, and the different degrees are what the emotional range is all about, you see. So when you finally say, I feel so bad about something I can't control. I can't make my father come back to life. I can't make my mother's life better. I can't fix what's going on with her. I can't soothe my sister who's having trauma over it. I can't fix what's going on in the Middle East. I can't make them stop dropping the bombs. In other words, there are all these things that I don't want to happen, and I can't control it. I feel powerless. But I can choose a thought that feels a little better. I can take a walk. I can get a breath. And when you note the improvement in the way you feel now, you're back in your empowerment. And then the second or third day, Esther would say to Jerry, I feel so much better. I feel so much better today than I did. Well, she was far from back into her normal joyful self, but she felt so much better. And when she could actually herself note her feeling better, then she knew it wouldn't be very long. If I can feel this much better, I can feel this much better. And if I can feel this much better. And it was only a few days before she had fully returned to the fullness, still with all of those things she can't control. Nothing changed in the reality of her ability to control it. The only thing she rediscovered was her ability to control the way she feels, and that's everything, you see.
Is that where the 17 seconds comes in?
Yes. It's where every process that we've ever offered you from the beginning of our utterance has been about you regaining your alignment and connection with who you really are. Every one. We've called it all kinds of different things. We called it pivoting. Pivoting is here to here. Not easy to do. In other words, pivoting implies I can go from a strong negative emotion to a strong positive emotion. And then we began softening the pivoting with other processes by explaining that you have this vibrational range. And you don't have access to what's over here when you're over here. You have access to it, just not all at once. And so the perfect pivot is, I'm in deep despair and I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And this is an irritating thing and I wish I could make things better, to I believe things will improve, to isn't life good? That's a pivot.
How long does that take for it to be perfect?
Some people, it takes a lifetime. Some people never get there. We think 68 seconds ought to do it. In other words, you can get so good at it. In other words, you can feel your despair and you can move into anger and you can move into irritation. In other words, you'll get really good at talking yourselves into feeling better. But there are so many people around saying, you can't talk yourself into feeling better. You're denying reality. And what you have to say to them is, get lost. This is not your business. I'm working on my vibrational range. Don't ask me to face reality. All reality is something you've been facing. All reality is the result of how somebody's been flowing energy. So now you're saying to me that I should look at the result of how somebody flowed energy and use that as my basis for flowing energy? I don't think so, say to them. I don't think so. I think I'm going to start saying and really meaning nothing is more important than that I feel good. And I'm going to choose the best feeling thought that I have access to, and I'm going to stop condemning myself that my best feeling thought sucks. Because it only stinks by your perspective as you're making it relevant to your bright-eyed, bushy-tailed thought. This is an improved thought for me, and I'm sticking here for a little while. This is an improvement, and I did this, and I'm in control, and I'm empowered, and I'm choosing that thought, and now I'm choosing that thought because it feels slightly better than that thought. Now I'm choosing that thought because it feels slightly better than that thought. Ooh, I feel really good. I feel really, really good. This is who I am. This is how it's supposed to feel. This is who I am. This is how it's supposed to feel.
If I did that in front of my parents, they'd be speechless. So maybe that's the best thing to do when they get angry at what I'm trying to do. Just let them get angry and who cares?
You can't help what anybody else does, but if you get angry because they're angry, now you're angry. So I think this has been very helpful because, first of all, you are taking your emotions as what they are, your meter of how you're doing vibrationally. And you're not condemning it like you don't condemn your gas tank for showing empty. Instead, it's giving you information that helps you make your next decision. And being able to make the next decision is everything, because that's where empowerment is. And when you discover that you can choose the way you feel, then nobody and what they're doing ever frightens you again. In other words, you're not afraid of your hormones, you're not afraid of your ex-husband, you're not afraid of the wolf that runs through the woods who's afraid of you, who doesn't want anything to do with you either. You're not afraid of what's happening in Iraq, you're not afraid of somebody else's bombs, you're not afraid of somebody else's fiscal policy, you're not afraid of the economy, you're not afraid of how somebody might vote, you're not worried about who will get into office, you're not worried about how much rain will fall, you just don't worry about anything because finally you understand that you have the ability to keep moving yourself into a better and better place. And it doesn't take very much of this. We're talking about a few days, maybe even hours, maybe weeks, maybe months for some of you, but it doesn't take very long before you start knowing that you are blessed and you start expecting things to go well for you and you start understanding that you have choices. And then you start doing what we love to see you do. You start enjoying moving the energy. Instead of saying, I'm over here and I should be over there, you say, I'm going to have a good time moving from here to over there. But when you say, I should be over there, my mother wants me to be over there, everybody's mad at me that I'm not over there, now you're defeating yourself because now you're disempowered again. When you say, I'm over here and I want to be over there, and I'm here by choice, didn't know I was choosing it, but turns out I was, and now I choose to be over here, and I'm still not over there, but I moved from here to here, and that was my choice. And once you consciously acknowledge that you've made any movement at all, then there's no place you can't go. But until you acknowledge that you've made the choice, until you've acknowledged, I feel better because I intended to feel better, you're powerless. When you say, that made me feel better, or he made me feel better, or you made me feel better, or that circumstance made me feel better, then you got to control all those circumstances and feel better. And you're powerless to do that, you see. When you say, I feel better because I intended to feel better, yippee. Now you've got it.